Welcome back. In the previous class, I have talked about the various norms in the space. I have discussed about the column space and norm in the column space. After that, I have talked about the spaces where vectors are in form of matrices, and after that I have talked about the different kind of norm, and finally I have talked about the spaces which contains the some kind of continuous function, obviously continuous bounded function, and after that we have defined different kind of norm. In today's lecture, I would like to talk about some applications of the norm linear space. There are infinite many applications. Suppose that I have some signal in n-dimensional space, then in order to do comparison, somehow I have to convert, or I have to define some kind of equivalent notion such that Rn things is converted into R plus, and after that one can do comparison, because in one dimensional space comparison is possible, and by using norm basically we are doing the same. Due to that reason, norm has various applicability. So first application I am going to talk, that is the characterization of input to state stability. So let us first try to understand the problem, and after that I will discuss the another application that is related to sensitivity analysis, and both applications has several applications in the different areas of the engineering. Either you can consider electrical, mechanical, electronics, finance, everywhere. So let us start with input to state stability. So in order to talk input to state stability, I am going to consider the force system because I am allowing the input. So what I am telling that consider the system, and I am considering the force system F, X and U, and I am assuming that X belongs to Rn, U belongs to Rm, and F, this mapping is from Rn, Cartesian product with Rn to Rn, and I am assuming that this function has certain kind of property in order to give guarantee that there exists some kind of solution for this differential equation for each initial condition x t0 equal to x0. Till now, since I haven't talked about the solution, due to that reason I am not going to write that, but I am assuming here. So now let us just talk about so here I am assuming that I have unique solution. Unique solution means for every initial condition x0 I can define xt for all t greater than equal to 0. That is our assumption, and I have certain kind of assumption about the input. So I am assuming, so assumption is we have unique solution. So that is the first assumption, and second assumption is the input ut is a piecewise, because in previous class I have talked about the norm or size of signal when that is piecewise, continuous, bounded function of t for all t greater than equal to 0. So I'm talking about existence and uniqueness of solution, under which condition this one can talk. So that I will talk in the next part of this course. And second thing, so I am basically going to talk about some result with respect to the second assumption. Now, what is goal of the today's lecture? So goal is like this. So we are assuming that third assumption is like this. So suppose the unforced system. So in order to represent unforced system, I have to put control equal to 0. So basically I am talking about this system x0, and I am assuming that this system has a globally uniformly, or just you can write, do not confuse with these words, globally asymptotically stable equilibrium point at the origin. Again, in order to talk about the asymptotic stability, I have to take help of the next part of this course, but for time being you can interpret like this. We are assuming that whatever solution xt that is bounded, and bounded means it will never go to infinity, and we are also assuming that xt as t tending towards infinity, xt tending towards the 0, that is the meaning of asymptotic stability. Asymptotic stability means we are talking about the, for every bounded initial condition I have certain kind of bounded solution, and apart from that we are also talking about this xt tending towards 0 as t tending towards infinity. So that is the meaning of asymptotic stability. So we are assuming that unforced system is stable. Stable here you can just interpret in simple language that if I will give bounded input, then I am going to generate bounded output. So in that way you can assume. So now our question is like this. So question of today's lecture: what can we say about the behavior of the system in the presence of bonded input ut. So try to understand the problem. What basically we are telling, that I have some system. So this is our system, and initially I am giving some kind of initial condition x0 and I am getting xt, and I have this kind of things that xt is bonded for bonded x0, and I have another condition like this, xt is tending towards 0 as t tending towards infinity. So these two conditions I have. Now I am modifying this system. So for all bonded, for bonded x0, we have to write for all, basically all bonded x0, and xt tending towards 0 as t tending towards infinity. Now I am modifying same system, and I adding one more input channel to the system. So I have same system. Now apart from the initial condition, I am also going to give you some piecewise continuous function, and after that I am going to see the behavior of xt. So because if u equal to 0, then this system is nothing but x dot equal to fx. So this is autonomous system. And if you see the solution, then xt equal to x0 plus 0 to t f x tau into d tau. So due to that reason, I am telling that t we are always giving, and x0. So x0 I am giving here, and after that I am generating xt. But now here, if you see this system, so this is force system now, that is x and u. So this is example of the force system. We have already seen the characterization, these kind of name and characterization in the first part of this course. So here if you see the solution, so that is x0, 0 to t, and f x tau u tau into d tau. So if I know x0 and u, and time is always in our hand, so I can calculate xt. So suppose that if ut equal to 0, then for bonded x0 I am getting bonded xt, and also xt tending towards 0 as t tending towards infinity. Then in today's lecture I am going to see the behavior of same system if I apply some kind of control, and obviously this is some kind of piecewise continuous bonded function. So if I apply piecewise continuous bonded function, then what is the behavior? In another language you can also interpret like this. Suppose that initial condition is 0, so initially system is on rest. So if you apply bonded control, then what is the response of the system? So due to that reason, this kind of analysis is very much important. So if input will change, then what is the response? And this characterization is also important in this way. Suppose that in your room air conditioner is running, and that is maintaining the temperature around 18 degree, and for that basically you have certain kind of mechanism such that 18 degree that air conditioner is able to maintain the 18 degree. Now suppose that some sudden fluctuation in voltage or somewhere some external disturbance comes into picture, that is nothing but certain kind of input that is going to additional input that is going to occur either inside the system or from the outside. Then we are going to see the behavior. It means that for some kind of bounded fluctuation of voltage, either our AC will again come back to the our original situation, means it is able to maintain 18 degree, or it will deviate, or somehow or in another way is it possible that may collapse for some kind of voltage fluctuation. So due to that reason, this analysis is very, very important. Now this is the story about the general class, but for time being I am going to limit myself for this force system as a some kind of linear time invariant system. So I am going to, in order to see the application of norm, I am going to take for the linear time invariant, where time is basically explicitly not involved, that is the meaning of time invariant. So I am denoting that system like this, ax plus bu. So basically now fx u is nothing but I am defining in some specific way and like this. So that is the meaning. And I have certain kind of assumption. I am assuming that with, and here again I am assuming x belongs to Rn, u belongs to Rm, and I have x t0 because I am going to give certain kind of initial condition. So you can write initial condition like x0, certain kind of initial condition. I am going to denote like this, because whenever we have physical system, then we are providing the initial condition with a Hurwitz matrix A, and I have already defined what is meaning of Hurwitz matrix. Hurwitz matrix means all eigenvalue of A is strictly negative. That is the meaning. And whenever I have linear system, then I can also able to write the solution, explicit solution or closed form solution. I have already derived the closed form solution in the previous classes, if you check the previous class. So E t minus t0 a, this is x t0 plus t0 to t, and that is E t minus tau into a b u tau into d tau. This is the closed form solution. Now let us try to see that, since I want to see that if ut is bonded, then xt is going to remains bonded or not. So due to that reason, I have to talk about the size of the signal. So before talking the size of signal, we have to talk about the one more important quantity, that after calculating the size, what is the value of this part basically. So let us first write the, since I am talking about, so let us try to characterize the size of output, and here output is xt. So in order to denote the size xt, I am going to take the norm on the both side. So that is norm of e t minus t0 into a x t0 plus t0 to t power t minus tau a b u t d tau. So please check this solution. And after that, from the property of norm, I can also write like this: e power t minus t0 into a x t0 norm of this plus norm of this whole quantity minus tau a b u tau into d tau, norm of this. So now I have to calculate the bond of this. So this e power a t minus t0, a is matrix. So first I have to basically know the calculate the bond. So in order to calculate the bond, we have to understand the behavior of this matrix A, and A is Hurwitz matrix. So I confirm that all the eigenvalues of this particular matrix A is negative. So somehow I have to see the behavior of this matrix A. So let us try to see again one more important thing. In order to calculate the bond, now I am talking like this. Suppose that in this particular system x dot equal to ax equal to bu, and I am substituting u equal to 0, then my system is nothing but x dot equal to ax. And if you see the solution of this, then I can also write solution from above by putting u equal to 0. So xt is nothing but xt0 e power t minus t0 into a. So this is the solution. So either I will calculate the bond of this solution, or I will see the previous term that is exactly the same by putting u equal to 0. So either I will consider this autonomous system x dot equal to ax, or x dot equal to ax plus bu with u equal to 0. Then exactly I have the same solution. Now in order to see the bond on this solution, I am going to talk about the solution of the linear, this is called homogeneous matrix equation in form of eigenvalue and eigenvector. So let us try to define the solution in terms of eigenvalue and eigenvector, and I hope that you have already learned this. So I am going to revise this. So and several good things comes into picture. So due to that reason, and I am not going to waste my time. So due to that reason, I have actually retained everything, and I am going to give you just explanation. So I am going to write the solution in terms of eigenvalue and eigenvector method. So now again you can see that I have same kind of autonomous system x dot equal to ax. I am assuming that x belongs to Rn. So basically I am assuming that this x belongs to Rn, and A is nothing but n cross n matrix. Now since here X belongs to Rn, so I have to find n linearly independent solution. Then only I can tell that I am able to cover the whole space, because x dot equal to Ax is somehow you can interpret like this, that I have some system and I am giving x0 and after that I am getting xt, and that is covered by x dot equal to Ax. So I have n number of independent solution. So now let us try to see how to find the solution of this particular equation x dot equal to Ax. And we already observed that if I have first order differential equation x dot equal to alpha x, and if x belongs to R and alpha is some kind of constant, then I can write the solution xt equal to x0 e power alpha t. So either by simple solution, by solving, taking integral on both sides, and after that separation of variable, one can see solution can be written like this. So due to that reason, by heat and trial, we can also suggest that solution for the x dot equal to Ax is nothing but xt equal to e power lambda t into v, and where I am assuming that v is some kind of constant vector and lambda is again some another constant. So I am writing solution like this. So what I have done, by seeing the first order differential equation, I am generalizing the solution for nth order differential equation, and I am writing that solution like this. So this is the solution for this particular equation x dot equal to Ax. So this is the solution. This I am assuming basically. So whenever you have any differential equation, you can assume solution of any form, but after that you have to put that solution inside that differential equation, and you have to check that all properties are satisfied or not. So same kind of things we are doing. So we are putting the solution inside the differential equation. So I am assuming e power lambda t into v is the solution. So I am putting e power lambda t into v in place of x, and after that in everywhere of the equation, and after that we are also, one can also see that this A is matrix and this V is vector and e power lambda t is just one scalar. So I can also write like this. So by differentiating this and by putting x in place of e power lambda t into V, I am getting this. So finally what happens, this from left hand side, after, so basically from the left hand side I have generated this particular quantity from this, and after that this particular quantity is generated from the right hand side by putting this. So basically this is equal to this. So finally I am writing the same kind of things as a remark. So you can see here that I am writing that xt equal to e power lambda t into v is a solution of x dot equal to Ax if and only if these equality is satisfied. If this equality is not satisfied, then I cannot claim that e power lambda t multiplied by v, where v is constant vector, is the solution. I am assuming that v is the constant, lambda is constant. So from this you can see that e power lambda t I am going to cancel from both sides. So Av equal to lambda v. So one can only claim that this is the solution provided equation AB equal to lambda V will satisfy. So same I have written that x t equal to e power lambda t v is a solution of x dot equal to ax if and only if lambda and v satisfy this equation. And from here you can see that A is the matrix, V is the column vector. So after application of matrix on column vector, we are getting some kind of a scalar. Lambda is some kind of a scalar we are assuming into V. So this is very special kind of matrix, or this lambda t is very special kind of constant. So due to that reason, I am giving some special name to this, and that is nothing but the eigenvalue and eigenvector. So eigenvalue is a non-zero vector V satisfying AV equal to lambda V is called the eigenvector of A with eigenvalue lambda. So one important thing is that if you are substituting V equal to 0 here, then that is obvious. So we are not interested in that case, that V equal to 0. So due to that reason, I have written non-zero vector. I am not considering the zero vector because that is the obvious. So that case is not interested for our analysis. So due to that reason, we have written non-zero here. So now one can also interpret this eigenvalue of matrix in terms of linear transformation. So if you remember that linear transformation T is some transformation which is mapping from one space to another space. So we are telling that basically I have X, and here I have, after transformation I have something AX. So meaning of eigenvalue of a matrix is a special vector under the linear transformation which goes into a multiplying lambda of the itself. So this is the very special property of that particular vector. And this kind of vector has several beautiful property in the many application, because eigenvalue and eigenvector has several application. And now question is that how to find that vector. So we are telling that suppose that if I have some matrix A and I am applying some kind of column vector X, and after that I am getting same column vector with some kind of amplification. That is the meaning of the eigenvalue. Now question is that how to find that. So again, in order to find the eigenvalue, I am going to take the help of same equation, that AV equal to lambda V, but I am going to now write like this. So here this is zero vector. So now I have to talk about the solution, and during the column space I have already talked about the solution. So in order to existence of this solution, it is possible to show that determinant of this equal to 0, because we are going to talk about the unique solution, and that determinant is nothing but the roots of this equation. So now let us try to see that in this way one can calculate the eigenvalue, and once one can calculate the eigenvalue, then they will put eigenvalue here, and corresponding to that eigenvalue one can get the eigenvector. In that way, for each eigenvalue I have one eigenvector. So since here you can see that here matrix is n cross n matrix, so I have n possible solution of this determinant A minus lambda I, that is nothing but a polynomial in terms of lambda. So for each eigenvalue, I have one eigenvector that is associated, and I can write that is the solution of that equation x dot equal to ax. So solution can be written like this. So if I consider the j eigenvalue, then solution x jt is nothing but e power lambda jt into vj. So in this way I can define the solution. So finally I have now n, suppose I have n independent eigenvalue or eigenvector, that is v1, v2, vn, with respect to corresponding eigenvalue lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n, that may be different or may not be. So I have n number of the solution. Now I have to talk about the complete solution, and we know that all are linearly independent. So if something is linearly independent, then complete solution can be given like this. So somehow this e power lambda t into v1, that is going to form some kind of basis. So now I have to span the whole space using that e power lambda jt vj. So how to span the space? So we have to define the linear combination. So here c1, c2, cn. So in this way, where c1, c2 and cn are the proper constants. So in this way I can write the solution xt in terms of eigenvalue and eigenvector. Now you can see that v1, v2, vn all are constant vectors. And suppose now if I will assume that A is Hurwitz matrix. So because in previous in the sometime before I am assuming that A, whatever A matrix, what is our assumption? Assumption is A is Hurwitz. So if A is Hurwitz, then what happens? That eigenvalue of A is less than 0. So basically all lambda I is less than 0. And now let us come to the solution. So from solution, it is obvious that here if lambda is negative, all lambda is negative, then xt is bounded by c1, and after that I have to select the slowest or smallest value of this lambda, because this lambda is going to decide the decay rate. So if lambda is larger, then that function will quickly decay. So suppose that I have some lambda I, that is the smallest of this all eigenvalue, then basically this solution xt is bounded by or governed by the solution of that smallest one, because all other term is going to decay quickly, but I have to wait till the decay of the slowest term, and here slowest term is suppose lambda I. Due to that reason, one can also write, now I am going to write solution in terms of the bond. So I can also write xt here. This xt is basically bounded by some constant. So suppose that I am assuming that ci is the smallest eigenvalue, e lambda I t into vn. So in this way, that is the bond, and I can also collect these two numbers together. So I can write like this: ci vi e power lambda I t. So that is nothing but you can define something like k e power lambda I into t. So now suppose that if I am assuming that when I have started the initial condition whatever we are providing, that is t0 equal to 0, but if I have finite initial condition t0, then this term t is modified by t minus t0. So one can also write in more general way. So let us write it. So more generally I can also able to write that xt is basically bounded by k e power lambda I t, where t minus t0, if I am giving initial condition at t0 where lambda I is the smallest eigenvalue. So if you understood this bond, so same kind of bond now I am going to use in order to define the solution here. You can see that here same kind of things, xt is bounded by less than equal to k e power minus lambda t minus t0, and I am going to substitute this kind of bond in this place. I am going to substitute. So now after substituting this bond, I can able to write like this. So now I am going to write from here basically. So this is just for discussion. So now let us again come to the original bond. So in order to understand, clear understanding, again I am going to write the estimate of solution. So estimation or estimate of the solution, that is xt less than equal to k e power minus lambda, that is the slowest eigenvalue or smallest eigenvalue of this matrix, and after that xt0, that is the initial condition, and after that I have, so here x0 is missing, so just you can, for sake of completion I have written. So and after that I have to now calculate the bond of this part. So I am going to put that norm operator inside the integral. So this term is always, k is always positive, this term lambda t minus tau is always positive, and again you can see here that same kind of inequality is also useful inside the integral, because again similar kind of term we have, and after that norm of this matrix and u tau norm of this into d tau. So now let us, here you can see that I have two different kind of norms involved here, because here I have, this is matrix, so I can use induced norm, concept of induced norm, to calculate the bond of this, and here this is bounded function, so I have to, this is some kind of function, so I have to use the norm in the function space. So in order to calculate the size of this signal, I have to know the norm, and here you can see that I have to calculate this norm xt0, and xt0 is the initial, so this is column vector. So this is column vectors. So I have to know the norm like L1, L2, L infinity, LP. So all three kind of norms are involved in order to calculate the estimation of the solution or size of this signal output xt. And due to that reason, you have to understand the all three spaces together with the norm in order to characterize the output. Now, if you understood this point, then let us try to write the next part of this bond. So that is less than equal to k e power minus lambda t minus t0 x t0, and after that k, and after calculating the induced norm, this will some scalar number. Due to that reason, I can take it out, and if I solve this integral, and again if I calculate the u tau, norm of u tau, that is, I have several choices for this. So suppose that if I will take sup norm, yeah, L infinity norm, so for that, and I have supremum over tau, I have to take from t0 to t, and I have this signal. And in previous class we have already seen that how to define this. So in order to define this, again here I can use the concept of column vector. So I can use L1, L2, LP, L infinity, and after that I have to take supremum over all. So in this way we are using the concept of norm to talk about the bond of the output. So now let us try to see the interpretation of this particular bond. So now interpretation is like this. So I am going to write in form of remark. So what is our observation? That this estimates shows that the zero input decays to zero exponentially, and that is obvious because we are assuming that A is Hurwitz matrix, and in form of eigenvalue and eigenvector we have seen that solution can be represented in form of eigenvalue and eigenvector. So if control u is 0, then nature of decay is exponential 1. So that is confirmed from the solution in terms of eigenvalue and eigenvector, whatever I have discussed just now. Exponentially fast, while the zero state response is bounded. Now if you put the initial condition equal to 0, then also I can claim that for every bonded input, I have bonded state. So bonded response is bonded for every bonded input. And this property has some special name that is called input to state stability. So we are telling that bonded input, bonded state property. So whenever we have linear system, then and if that linear system is stable, then I can always give guarantee that bonded input will give bonded output. Due to that reason, linear system is very simple. And it is also possible to show that zero state response means if initial condition equal to 0, then whatever bond we are getting, that is the proportional of the input. So this kind of stability concept we are using for the linear system, but for nonlinear system, this kind of things may be true or may not be. So let us, and I have already told you that whenever if I have to prove something is not general, then just you can create one counter example. So let us see one example. So I am going to take one example of force system. So example is like this. Suppose that I have system like x dot equal to minus 3x plus 1 plus 2x square into u. So you can see that due to this term, due to this x square term, now system is nonlinear. And this is force system function of x and u. So if you substitute u equal to 0, so now let us just substitute, and I am assuming that x belongs to R. So u equal to 0, I have x dot equal to minus 3x. And if you see the behavior of this x dot equal to minus 3x, so that is I can interpret using real line. So 0. So if I start from here, if I have initial conditions, so again I have this kind of behavior and I have this kind of behavior. Or by solution also one can see that this is globally exponentially stable because solution is exponential. So we are decaying exponentially fast. So due to that reason, my solution is globally asymptotic. Means if I start from anywhere, then I will converge to the 0. Now let us try to see this kind of things. Means suppose that now I have some initial condition that is equal to 2 and control you can select that is equal to 1. So you can see that control is always bounded, means I am taking constant control. And if you solve using some standard technique or something, means if you set this kind of things, so basically my equation is looks like this: 3x plus 1 plus 2x square with initial condition x 0 equal to 2. And if you solve using any standard technique, so most of time people are first order differential equation, so solution is very easy. And one way is that you can just put this solution in this differential equation and after that you can check. So this particular value is now not bounded. Why I am telling this is not bounded? So you can see that when 3 minus 2 e power t, so is unbounded, because in some time when 3 minus 2 et equal to 0 occurs, at that time this is actually tending towards infinity. So, and I can calculate that time also. So that time is nothing but 3 by 2. So t is ln 3 by 2. So after, once this time comes into picture, then xt will tending towards infinity. So what we have observed, that control is bounded even if this xt is tending towards infinity. So concept of bounded input or bounded state kind of stability is not always true in case of nonlinear system. Here you can see that without control, I have already checked that system is very nice behavior, but just after updating control by 1, that is always bounded, we are getting unbounded behavior. So this is unbounded behavior. So I am going to write the comment, and due to that reason it is very difficult to handle the nonlinear systems. So remarks is like this, and due to that reason stability is also one of the most important thing in case of nonlinear system. A general nonlinear system, it should not be surprising that bounded input bounded state property hold even when the origin, means in previous example we have seen that origin of the unforced system is globally uniformly asymptotically stable. So that is the conclusion. And so what we have observed, that for linear system, at least using the all three different kind of NOR, I can able to talk about the bounded input to bounded state property. Now let us quickly try to move to the second application. So actually for second application, in order to quickly finish the today's lecture, I have already written everything, so I am just going to explain you. So second application is related to the sensitivity analysis. So again we have already seen that if I have some system, though, so system is nothing but mapping from one vector space. So I am assuming that my control input u belongs to Rn and output belongs to Rm, so that will map from Rn to Rm. And here I am assuming that whatever field I am using, field means underlining a scalar, that is always real number, because whenever we are defining some system, so and we have already seen that this kind of point, that system is nothing but some kind of operator which map from one space U to Y. So let us now consider one very simple system. So I have selected electrical system, but this kind of theory is applicable for almost all class of linear system, which is governed by some kind of algebraic equation. So why I have selected this example, because during your 10+2 also you have learned about this. So suppose I have two voltage source V1 and V2, and I have 3 resistor. So by using standard application of Kirchhoff's law and Ohm's law, I can able to write the equation. So how basically we are writing the equation, we are identifying the loop, and after that we are just traveling across this loop. So V1, and after that this is positive because this is connected to plus terminal, and negative. So due to that reason, by application of Ohm's law, this is I1 into R1, and after that here, whenever I am writing equation here, then I am assuming I1 is more dominating over I2 in order to write equation in this particular loop. So I1 minus I2 into R2 equal to 0. Similarly, I have written equation for this second, and at this time I am going to assume that I2 is dominate over I1. In this way, basically we are writing equation, and after collecting, I can write same equation in form of the matrix, and this is the equation in matrix. One can also generate this equation directly. How to do that? What you can do, you can travel in this loop and add the all possible resistance R1 and R2, and after that whatever common one you can write here with negative sign. Similarly you can do here. So here this is R2 and R3, so in this diagonal, and after that common one in this. So in this way I can write the equation directly, but we have to take care about the sign. You can see that V1, because what we are doing, we are moving like this. Here we are moving in opposite way, because whatever direction of current we are showing, that is plus to minus, due to that reason negative sign comes into picture. So in this way one can also write the equation. So I think that it is not difficult to visualize for those who are not belongs to the electrical engineering. Now I can also write this equation in matrix form by A. A is the matrix which contains the all combination of resistor, means whatever combination I have written, and I is the current I1 and I2, and V is the voltage. And I am assuming that for proper value of R1, R2 and R3, A is invertible. So I can talk about the solution, and that solution can be A inverse into V. Now what happens, that if you have this kind of connection, so I have certain kind of voltage source and resistance. So throughout we are assuming that resistance is fixed. So I know the exact value of resistance, and voltage is also exact, but in real case resistance is not fixed, because as temperature will increase, then resistance is changing. This is well aware fact. And after that voltage is also fluctuating due to several supply problem, or some noises, or several kind of difficulty. Due to that reason, now what happens, that I cannot assume that A is completely known to me and V is also completely known to me. So if A and V is completely known to me, then that solution is called the nominal solution. So I have written that as a nominal solution. But in practical case, if you see, then A, since resistance is changing with respect to temperature, so I can assume that A is nothing but A plus delta A, and voltage is also fluctuating. So I am assuming V equal to V plus delta V. So same kind of things I have basically denoted here, that kind of fluctuation, that is A plus delta A, V is V plus delta V. Now what is our goal? That now I have to see the effect of V and R on the fluctuation of I. So if V and R all are normal, then it is very easy. But suppose if both will fluctuate, then what is their effect on I? And this kind of analysis has very standard name, that is sensitivity analysis. And if you solve the problem related to machine learning or some kind of parameter estimation, at that time basically we are getting same kind of equation. So that equation is Ax equal to B form. So here same kind of equation I have written. So let us first try to see the definition of sensitivity, and after that I will give several, I will try to connect it with the several practical example. So basically now you can see that now meaning of sensitivity is nothing but a measure, and whenever measure comes into picture, then obviously you have to use the norm, a measure of how the solution x to Ax equal to B changes as A and B are perturbed in is known as the sensitivity analysis. So what we are telling, that suppose I have Ax equal to B, and if A is going to change and B is going to change, so that is meaning of perturbation. And if I am able to measure that effect, that is nothing but the sensitivity analysis. So same kind of things we are going to do. So this is the meaning of the sensitivity analysis. So changes of A and changes and perturbation of B. So we have to see the effect on the X. So if I am going to see the effect on X, then I will define that as a sensitivity analysis. So due to that reason, again I am going to consider Ax equal to B. So for the simplicity of the case, I am assuming that A map from Rn to Rn. So X belongs to Rn and B belongs to Rn. And so here you can see that if A inverse exists and if A and B all are exactly known, then we have unique solution. And during the column space we have already learned about this, that if matrix determinant of matrix A is non-zero, then it is able to cover the whole space, or that is the basis. Any matrix generates some kind of basis, so I am able to cover the whole space. So I have somehow nominal solution that I have represented by x0 equal to A inverse B. Now I have to consider the perturbed solution. So I am imposing the perturbation inside the matrix by A plus delta A. So this is the perturbation in this matrix A, and similarly B is going to perturb by B plus delta B, and I am going to call this solution, since A and B both are going to change, so due to that reason X is also going to change, and that change is nothing but delta X. Now I have to just put everything inside this algebraic equation, matrix algebraic equation, and after that you can see that after substituting this I am going to get this. And since here delta X and delta A both are small, so product of these two are further small, so I can neglect this. So after neglecting this, I am able to generate, and here Ax0 is nothing but B, so this term and this term is going to become cancelled. So basically now I have this term equal to this term. So due to that reason I have generate this equation from this. Now what is our aim? Our aim is to relate the size of delta x to the delta A and delta B, because we know the fluctuation in delta A, we know the fluctuation on delta B, and we have to see the fluctuation in delta x. So again I have to calculate the delta x, and I am assuming that A is invertible, that is our assumption. So under this assumption, after that I can write delta x like this, and after that I am going to take the norm on both sides, and here concept of induced norm comes into picture. Again, because this is matrix, so I have to calculate the induced norm, and inequality sign comes into picture because here norm AB, so norm of A, norm of B. We have already seen these kind of things in the few class before. If you see the lecture, then you are able to understand this inequality, and that is very common. Several times you are using. So this is I denotes the induced norm. Here this is also the induced norm, and x0 is the norm of column vector, and again this is norm on the column vector. So two different kind of norms are involved here. And now if you know the norm, and if I divide both sides by x0, because I have to see the fluctuation of, I have original things x0 and I have fluctuation delta x, so I have to see the ratio of these two fluctuation. So after seeing the ratio of these two fluctuation, I can divide both sides by x0, and after that I will get this kind of expression. So just please check it. That is very easy. Because why I have written this, because I know I am assuming that x0 is basically A into, means ax0 equal to B. If I will just see the nominal solution, and if I will take the norm, then this inequality comes into picture, and after that I will divide. So now here you can see that very nice term comes into picture. So here this is the fluctuation of nominal is x0, and this is fluctuation. This part nominal is A, fluctuation is delta A. Here nominal is B and fluctuation is delta B. So now somehow if I am going to give guarantee that, means by fluctuation of these two parameters x is not going to deviate much, then I have to see this matrix, that is AI, induced norm AI, that is Ka, that is greater than 1, that is called condition number of A. So if K1 is greater than equal to 1, then what happens, that small change in delta B and delta A cause a big change in delta x. So here concept of condition number comes into picture. So I have to put this number always less than 1, then only I can give guarantee that even if A and B is going to fluctuate, my solution is not going to deviate much. So what happens that whenever we are applying the concept of neural network or machine learning or parameter estimation, then these kind of condition comes into picture. And several times our conclusion is based on the measurement. So I have to talk that if some will again perform the same kind of experiment, and if these kind of fluctuation, then how basically whatever estimation or estimation of solution and whatever algorithm, means neural network algorithm or machine learning is going to affect. So due to that reason, this characterization is very important. And here you can see that in order to do this characterization, just we have to know the condition number, and in order to calculate the condition number, again I have to calculate the induced norm. So you have to understand the concept of induced norm, otherwise you are not able to talk about the sensitivity of some parameter with respect to the system or something. Due to that reason, here again norm of the non-linear space is very important. So with these two applications, so first application I have talked that is very important again. So whenever I have linear system, and if linear system, unforced linear system is stable, then I can give asymptotically stable, then I can give guarantee that bonded input will create bonded output. But this kind of result I cannot generalize for the nonlinear case. And second application is related to the sensitivity. Suppose that if system is modeled using some kind of algebraic equation, that is Ax equal to B. So in machine learning, parameter estimation, in finance, most of time we are doing modeling using these kind of equations. And even if you see the model of means some disease, also people are using this kind of algebraic equation or matrix equation to model that. So now sensitivity means if some fluctuation happens, then what is effect on the solution, that is one of the most important characterization. And that in order to see that characterization, I have to understand the norm of means concept of induced norm. So in this lecture we are able to understand the use of norm in column space, norm in matrix space, norm in function space for the solving the engineering problems. There are several applications, but due to limited time I cannot discuss all possible application, but I am just trying to cover the more generalized application. So with these remarks I am going to close the today's lecture. Thank you very much.